Step out of the vehicle. Now. Officer, what did we do? We're just sitting here, waiting to go inside. Ma'am, we're investigating car burglaries in this area. I need to see identification from all three of you. Deputy Stephen Holland thought he was conducting a routine investigation. September 20th, 2019. Castro Valley Starbucks parking lot. Early morning, suspects described as 4 to 5 young black males driving a gray or silver sedan. When Holland spotted a silver Cadillac with Nevada plates parked in the disabled spot, his mind clicked. Right color vehicle, out-of-state plates, black occupants. In his 8 years with the Alameda County Sheriff's Office, he'd made dozens of stops based on less. The body camera mounted on his chest activated automatically as he approached, recording everything in high-definition clarity. What he didn't realize was that this routine stop would cost the county $8.25 million and expose a pattern of racial profiling that would end with both deputies promoted despite violating a family's constitutional rights. Before we continue, comment where in the world you're watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Azalea Lagervale, 41, sat in the driver's seat of the rented Cadillac, exhausted after driving all night from Las Vegas. Her daughters, Aade, 17, and Azalea Harge Lagervale, 19, sat in the back seat, both trying to stay awake. They'd left Nevada at 10 p.m. the previous night for the 9-hour drive to Berkeley City College. The older daughter had a statistics exam at 8 a.m., critical for her transfer to UCLA. Azalea was a tax preparer who'd built her career on precision and following rules. She'd displayed her disability placard clearly in the front window. She'd parked legally. She'd done nothing wrong. They were simply waiting for the Starbucks to feel less crowded before going inside to use the restroom and grab coffee. That's when Deputy Holland's patrol car pulled up behind them. Holland's body camera captured his approach, the morning light perfect for recording. Deputy Monica Pope, his partner, activated her camera as well, providing a second angle. 2 white deputies approaching a car with 3 black women. Holland knocked on the driver's window. Azalea rolled it down, her face showing confusion. "Good morning, ma'am. We've been having a lot of car burglaries in this area recently. Can I see your identification?" The request hung in the air, captured on both body cameras. Azalea's legal instincts kicked in immediately. She knew the Fourth Amendment. She knew that in California, you only had to provide identification if there was reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. Sitting legally parked in a Starbucks parking lot wasn't criminal activity. "Officer, what's that about? What kind of crime did I commit?" Holland's jaw tightened, visible on Pope's body camera from the side. He'd asked a simple question. He expected compliance. Resistance always meant guilt in his experience. "We're investigating vehicle break-ins, 4 to 5 suspects. I need to verify you're not involved." Azalea's voice remained calm despite her racing heart. Her daughters in the back seat had pulled out their phones, already sensing danger. "We're just sitting here. We drove from Nevada. My daughter has a college exam. We haven't done anything wrong. Then you won't mind showing me ID." Holland's body camera recorded his own hand moving to rest on his duty belt, a gesture meant to intimidate. Pope shifted her position, her camera capturing Azalea's hands gripping the steering wheel, the visible disability placard hanging from the rearview mirror that Holland claimed he couldn't see in the dark, though body camera footage would later show it was clearly visible in the morning light. Azalea made a decision that would change everything. "Officer, I don't have to show you ID unless you have reasonable suspicion I committed a crime." "What crime do you think I committed?" The question was perfectly legal, perfectly reasonable, and perfectly terrifying for a black woman to ask a white police officer. Holland's face flushed red, the color change captured in high definition on Pope's camera. "Ma'am, your refusal to cooperate heightens my suspicion that criminal activity is taking place." The circular logic was stunning. Asserting constitutional rights became evidence of guilt. Azalea's older daughter, Azalea Harge Lagervale, started recording on her phone, capturing a third angle of the encounter. "Mom, I'm recording." Holland's head snapped toward the back seat, his body camera swiveling. "Why are you recording?" Azalea's voice was steady, but carried an edge of fear. "I got to have protection because I don't know where this is about to go." The words were prophetic. Holland's hand moved to the door handle. "Step out of the vehicle. All of you. Now." Both body cameras captured what happened next. Azalea tried to open her door to comply. Holland's police report would later claim she struck him with the door in an act of battery, justifying everything that followed. But the body camera footage told a different story. The video showed Holland pushing the door closed as Azalea tried to open it, then yanking it open himself and grabbing her arm with enough force to leave bruises. "You're being detained for investigation of vehicle burglary and battery on a police officer." "Battery?" Azalea's voice rose. "You pushed my door!" The daughters in the back seat were crying now, their voices captured on all 3 recording devices. "Why are you doing this? We didn't do anything." Holland pulled Azalea from the vehicle, spun her around, and snapped handcuffs on her wrists. The metal bit into her skin, already causing the abrasions that would be photographed later as evidence. Pope moved to the back door, her body camera recording her opening it. "Out! Both of you!" Aote, 17 years old, stepped out with her hands raised, tears streaming down her face. "Please don't hurt us. We didn't do anything wrong." Her older sister followed, still holding her phone, still recording even as Pope took it from her hand and placed handcuffs on both teenagers. All 3 women were now restrained, standing in a Starbucks parking lot at 7 a.m., handcuffed for the crime of sitting in their legally parked vehicle. The body cameras captured everything. The mothers repeated questions asking what they were being detained for. The deputies' refusal to answer. The growing crowd of morning customers watching in horror. The women's pleas to use the restroom. The deputies' denials. What the cameras also captured was Holland's radio call reporting 3 suspects in custody for investigation of vehicle burglary. The lie was broadcast over official channels before any of the women understood what was happening to them. Lieutenant Anthony D'Souza arrived on scene 14 minutes after the initial stop, his patrol car pulling into the Starbucks parking lot as his own body camera activated. What he saw should have raised immediate red flags. 3 black women in handcuffs, a mother and 2 teenage daughters. No weapons visible, no contraband in plain view, no evidence of any crime, and a growing crowd of witnesses with phones out recording from multiple angles. Instead of halting the detention and demanding justification, D'Souza's camera recorded him walking directly to Holland and asking for a briefing as if this was a routine arrest. Holland's body camera captured him, explaining the situation, his voice confident and authoritative. Silver Cadillac matches the description of vehicles involved in the burglary pattern. Out-of-state plates. Disabled placard that I couldn't verify in the dark. Occupants refused to provide identification. Mother became combative when I attempted contact, struck me with her vehicle door. I've detained all 3 for investigation and officer safety. Every word was a distortion or outright lie, contradicted by the very camera recording him. But D'Souza's body camera showed him nodding along, accepting the narrative without question. Pope stood near the handcuffed women, her camera capturing their distress. Azalea's voice was strained but controlled. "Officer, please. My daughter has a college exam in 1 hour. We need to get to Berkeley. We haven't done anything wrong. You can't just handcuff us without telling us what we did." Pope's response was captured with perfect audio clarity. "We're conducting an investigation. You need to remain calm." Calm. The word echoed with bitter irony. 3 innocent women handcuffed for driving, while black were being told to remain calm. Holland approached his patrol car, his body camera recording him, opening the back door. He gestured to Azalea. "You, in the car." Azalea walked to the vehicle, her movements restricted by the handcuffs, her dignity intact despite the humiliation. Holland's camera captured him, placing his hand on her head and pushing her into the back seat with more force than necessary. The metal grate separated front from back. The door slammed shut. Pope's camera recorded her leading both daughters to a second patrol car, placing them in the back seat together. Aoti was sobbing openly. Azalea Harge Lagervale tried to comfort her younger sister while handcuffed, her voice breaking. "It's okay. We didn't do anything wrong. They have to let us go. They have to. They didn't have to. And they didn't." What followed was captured in excruciating detail on multiple body cameras and would later be described in the federal lawsuit as a clear violation of Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search and seizure. Holland's camera recorded him returning to the rented Cadillac and beginning a comprehensive search of the vehicle. No warrant, no probable cause, no consent. He opened the driver's door and searched the front seat, the glove compartment, under the seats. His camera captured him finding exactly what you'd expect from a family on a road trip. Snacks, water bottles, college enrollment paperwork, a GPS device, Nothing illegal, nothing suspicious, nothing connecting them to any burglary. Pope joined him, her camera providing a second angle of the search. They moved to the trunk, opening it to reveal luggage. Holland unzipped the bags and searched through clothing, toiletries, textbooks. Pope's camera recorded her holding up a UCLA transfer application with Azile Harj Lagervale's name on it, the very document that proved they were exactly who they said they were, a family driving a daughter to college. D'Souza's body camera captured him standing nearby, supervising the search without questioning its legality. He would later testify that he saw nothing wrong with the deputy's actions. His camera showed him scrolling through his phone, occasionally glancing at the patrol cars where 3 women sat handcuffed and crying, waiting for an explanation that would never come. The search continued for 43 minutes. Body camera timestamps documented every second. Holland and Pope went through every inch of the vehicle, searching for evidence of crimes that hadn't been committed by people who weren't criminals. They found nothing because there was nothing to find. Inside the patrol cars, the body camera's audio captured the women's distress. Asile in one car, repeatedly asking to use the restroom. Please, I need to use the bathroom. I'm asking you as a human being. Please. The camera showed Holland walking past her window without responding, his body language dismissive. In the second patrol car, Pope's camera recorded Aote's panic attack. I can't breathe. These handcuffs are too tight. I can't breathe. Her older sister's voice rose. She's 17 years old. She has asthma. You're scaring her. Pope's response was clinical, recorded clearly. She's fine. She needs to calm down. The temperature in the patrol cars climbed as the morning sun beat down. No air conditioning, no water, no relief from the metal handcuffs digging into their wrists, creating the abrasions that would later be documented in medical reports and presented as evidence at trial. Holland's body camera captured him finally approaching D'Souza after completing the search. Lieutenant, there's nothing in the vehicle. No tools, no stolen property, nothing connecting them to the burglaries. D'Souza's camera recorded his response, his voice casual. What about their IDs? Did you run them? We never got their IDs. Mother refused. The silence that followed was telling. D'Souza's camera showed him looking at the handcuffed women in the patrol cars, then back at Holland. His next question should have been, then what probable cause did you have to detain them? Instead, his camera recorded him saying, go ask again. Holland walked to Ausile's patrol car, his body camera capturing her face through the window, streaked with tears, exhausted, terrified, but still dignified. Ma'am, I need your identification. Azile's voice was hoarse. Officer, you handcuffed me. You searched my car. You violated my Fourth Amendment rights. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm a tax preparer. I've never been arrested. My daughters have never been in trouble. We were driving to Berkeley for my daughter's college exam. What crime did we commit that gave you probable cause to do this? The question hung in the air, unanswered because it was unanswerable. Holland's camera recorded him walking away without responding. The body cameras captured what happened next from multiple angles. Holland and Pope conferring with D'Souza, the lieutenant making a phone call, his voice too quiet for the microphone to capture clearly, more minutes passing, the women sitting in the hot cars, handcuffed and helpless. And finally, after 70 minutes of detention, D'Souza's camera recorded him making the decision. Let them go. We've got nothing. The body cameras captured the release with the same clinical precision they had documented the illegal detention. Holland approached the patrol car where Asile sat handcuffed, his camera recording his own hands opening the door. Step out. He removed the handcuffs, the metallic click captured clearly on audio. Red marks circled her wrists, visible bruises already forming from 70 minutes of metal cutting into skin. Holland's camera recorded Asile rubbing her wrists, her movements stiff from being restrained for over an hour. Pope's body camera showed her releasing both daughters from the second patrol car. Aote stumbled as she stepped out, her legs cramped from sitting immobile. Azile Harj Lagervale immediately looked at her phone, checking the time. Her face crumpled. Mom, it's 8:10. I missed it. I missed my exam. The devastation in her voice was palpable, captured on 3 separate body cameras. This wasn't just about being late. This was about a statistics exam that represented months of preparation. This was about a UCLA transfer that depended on maintaining a perfect GPA. This was about a future being derailed because 2 deputies saw 3 black women sitting in a car and assumed criminality. Holland's camera recorded him handing Aisley her car keys, his voice matter of fact. "You're free to go. We determined you're not connected to the burglaries we're investigating." The understatement was staggering, determined, as if there had ever been any evidence connecting them, as if 70 minutes of illegal detention was a reasonable price for his fishing expedition. Azalé's response was captured with perfect audio clarity. "You had no right to do this. You violated our constitutional rights. You handcuffed us without probable cause. You searched our car without a warrant or consent. You traumatized my daughters. For what? For sitting in a parking lot while black?" Holland's camera recorded him taking a step back, his hand moving toward his duty belt in a defensive gesture. "Ma'am, we were conducting a legitimate investigation. If you have a complaint, you can contact our department." Then he turned and walked toward his patrol car, his camera capturing his retreat. Pope followed, her camera recording one last view of the family. Asilé gathering her daughters, checking their wrists, trying to comfort them while fighting back her own tears. The body cameras recorded the deputies' departure, their vehicles pulling away. The case closed in their minds. Just another stop, just another investigation. They'd found nothing, but that didn't matter. They'd never faced consequences. They'd done this before. What they didn't know was that multiple witnesses had recorded the entire encounter on their phones. A Starbucks employee filming through the window, morning commuters capturing the search from across the parking lot, a college student who'd arrived for coffee and stayed to document what she recognized immediately as racial profiling. The body camera. Footage would eventually be subpoenaed and released. But these civilian recordings were already uploading to social media, being shared, going viral. The evidence was multiplying. Asilé sat in the driver's seat, her hands shaking too badly to start the car. Her older daughter was crying in the back seat, knowing her exam was lost. Her younger daughter sat in shock, processing the trauma of her first encounter with police. 17 years old, and already learning the lesson that Black Americans know too well. Your rights are theoretical. Your safety is conditional. Your dignity is negotiable. Mom, we need to go. Azalee Harge Lagervale's voice broke through her mother's shock. "I need to get to Berkeley. Maybe they'll let me take the exam late if I explain." The drive to Berkeley City College took 45 minutes. They arrived at 9:05 a.m., more than an hour late. Aisley Harge Lagervale ran to the testing center, her mother's account of what happened tumbling out to the proctor. In a rush of words, handcuffed, detained, no charges, constitutional rights violated, just trying to get to my exam. The proctor let her take the test, but an hour late, rattled, traumatized, unable to focus. She'd maintained a 4.0 GPA at community college, perfect scores in every class. The UCLA transfer depended on this record. She finished the exam, knowing she'd failed. The grade came back days later. C, her first C ever. Her GPA dropped from 4.0 to 3.7. The UCLA transfer she'd worked years to achieve suddenly uncertain. All because two deputies saw black women in a car and decided they looked suspicious. That afternoon, Asilé contacted an attorney. Craig Peters listened to her account, asked pointed questions, and requested copies of everything. The daughter's phone recordings, the witnesses' videos, and most critically, a public records request for all body camera footage from Deputies Holland and Pope from September 20th, 2019. When the footage arrived 6 weeks later, Peters watched it in his office with growing anger. The body cameras had captured everything. Holland's approach, the illegal demand for ID, the manufactured battery charge when Auzele tried to open her door, the 70-minute detention, the warrantless search, D'Souza's supervision and approval, every constitutional violation documented in high-definition video and crystal-clear audio by the deputy's own equipment. Peters pulled Holland's personnel file through discovery. 8 years with Alameda County Sheriff's Office, 17 complaints from citizens, 15 involving allegations of racial profiling or excessive force, all investigated internally, all dismissed. Holland had learned he could target people of color without consequences. The department enabled him, protected him, promoted his aggressive enforcement as proactive policing. The pattern was undeniable. Peters also researched Alameda County's settlement history. Between 2015 and 2020, the county had paid out more in excessive force and wrongful death settlements than any other law enforcement agency in the Bay Area, millions of dollars, dozens of cases, a clear institutional failure to address officer misconduct. This wasn't one bad stop. This was a system working exactly as designed. On November 15, 2019, Peters filed a federal civil rights lawsuit in the United States District Court for the Northern District of California, Azile Lagervale, Aote Lagervale, and Azile Harge Lagervale versus Alameda County. Deputy Stephen Holland, Deputy Monica Pope, and Lieutenant Anthony D'Souza. The complaint alleged violations of the First, Fourth, and 14th Amendments, false arrest, unlawful search and seizure, retaliation for exercising constitutional rights, racial profiling, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence. The damages sought were substantial. But more than money, the family wanted accountability. They wanted these deputies to face consequences. They wanted the system to change. The county's initial response was dismissive. Their attorneys filed motions to dismiss, claiming qualified immunity for the deputies. They argued Holland and Pope had reasonable suspicion to make the stop. They claimed Azile's refusal to show ID justified the detention. They insisted the search was incident to a lawful arrest. Every argument contradicted by the deputy's own body camera footage. Peters knew he had an airtight case. The evidence was overwhelming. Multiple cameras, multiple angles. 70 minutes of illegal detention captured second by second. But he also knew that police misconduct cases were notoriously difficult to win. Juries often sided with law enforcement. Qualified immunity protected officers from consequences. Counties fought these cases aggressively to avoid setting precedents. This would be a battle. The depositions began in 2021. Holland testified for 6 hours, Peters methodically walking him through the body camera footage frame by frame. Can you show me in this video where you saw probable cause of criminal activity? Can you explain why you claimed it was too dark to see the disability placard when the body camera clearly shows it? Can you point to the moment when Ms. Lagervale struck you with her door? Holland's answers were evasive, defensive, contradicted repeatedly by his own recorded statements. Pope's deposition was no better. She admitted she never saw evidence of criminal activity. She acknowledged the search found nothing illegal. She couldn't explain why they detained the family for 70 minutes without charges. D'Souza testified he saw nothing wrong with his deputy's actions. Even watching the body camera footage in the deposition, he defended every decision. That testimony would prove devastating at trial. The trial began on February 27, 2023, nearly 4 years after the Starbucks parking lot detention. The courtroom in the United States District Court for the Northern District of California was packed. Media filled the back rows. Civil rights activists lined up hours early for seats. The Lagervale family sat at the plaintiff's table with Peters, their faces composed, but their eyes showing the weight of years fighting for justice. Across the aisle, Alameda County's defense team prepared their case, confident that qualified immunity and law enforcement deference would protect their clients. The county had offered settlements twice before trial, first $700,000, which wouldn't even cover attorney fees. Then $1.2 million. Peters rejected both. This case isn't about money. This is about accountability. This is about making sure every deputy in this county knows they can't violate constitutional rights because someone is black. The defense team had one major problem: the body camera footage. 20 minutes of high-definition video from multiple angles capturing every moment of the illegal detention. In opening statements, Peters addressed the jury directly, his voice calm but forceful. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about what happens when police officers let racial bias override constitutional law. You're going to watch body camera footage from the deputy's own equipment. You're going to see a mother and her 2 teenage daughters handcuffed for 70 minutes. You're going to hear them ask repeatedly what crime they committed, and you're going to hear the deputies unable to answer because there was no crime. There was only the assumption that black people in a car must be criminals. The defense attorney countered with the law enforcement narrative. These deputies were investigating a serious crime pattern, car burglaries. They had every right to approach a vehicle matching the description and ask questions. When the occupants refused to cooperate, they had reasonable suspicion to detain them for investigation. This isn't about race. This is about good police work. Then the body camera footage played. The courtroom went silent as the monitors showed Holland approaching the Cadillac, captured from his own chest camera. The audio was crystal clear, his demand for identification. Asalay's reasonable question about what crime she'd committed. Holland's claim that her refusal heightened his suspicion. The jury watched Asalay try to open her door to comply, saw Holland push it closed, heard him claim she'd struck him. They watched 3 women handcuffed and placed in patrol cars. They heard Aoti's panic attack. They saw the 70-minute detention play out in real time, the body camera timestamps documenting every minute. When the footage ended, several jurors were crying. Peters called his first witness. Asalay Lagervale took the stand, her voice steady as she recounted the morning of September 20th, 2019. We'd driven all night from Las Vegas. My daughter had a college exam. We stopped at Starbucks to rest before the final leg to Berkeley. We were doing nothing wrong. We were sitting in a legally parked car with a disability placard displayed. When the deputy demanded ID, I asked what crime I'd committed. That's my Fourth Amendment right. And for exercising that right, I was handcuffed, detained for over an hour, and traumatized in front of my children. The defense attorney cross-examined, trying to portray her refusal to show ID as suspicious. Ms. Lagervale, if you had nothing to hide, why didn't you just show your identification? Peters objected immediately. Objection. The Fourth Amendment doesn't require citizens to prove their innocence. The burden is on law enforcement to articulate reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. Sustained, the judge ruled. The defense attorney tried a different angle. You were parked in a disabled spot. The deputy had reason to verify your placard was legitimate. Asalay's response was devastating. The placard was clearly visible in my front window. It's shown on the body camera footage. The deputy never asked to verify the placard. He demanded ID for investigation of car burglaries committed by men. We're 3 women. The suspects were described as 4 to 5 males. We matched nothing except being black. Asalay Harge Lagervale testified about missing her statistics exam, about the C grade that dropped her perfect GPA, about the anxiety that now accompanied any interaction with police. I worked for years to transfer to UCLA. I maintained a 4.0 GPA. That morning was supposed to be just another exam. Instead, it became a nightmare that cost me my perfect record and taught me that my rights as an American citizen are conditional on the color of my skin. Aote, now 21, testified about the panic attack, about the therapy she'd needed afterward, about her fear of police. I was 17 years old. I'd never been in trouble, and I was handcuffed and put in a police car for sitting in my mom's car. I couldn't breathe. I thought I was going to die. Peters called an expert witness, a former police chief who reviewed the body camera footage and testified about constitutional violations. There was no reasonable suspicion to detain these women. The deputies were investigating car burglaries committed by males. The occupants of this vehicle were females. The vehicle had out-of-state plates, which isn't suspicious. The disability placard was visible. When Ms. Lagervale asked what crime she'd committed, that's a constitutionally protected question. Her refusal to show ID without reasonable suspicion is her Fourth Amendment right. Everything that followed was unconstitutional. The detention, the search, all of it. Holland took the stand for the defense, his testimony defensive and contradictory. Peters cross-examined methodically, playing body camera footage and asking Holland to explain his actions. Deputy Holland, you testified the suspects were 4 to 5 black males. The Lagervales are 3 black females. How did they match the description? Holland shifted in his seat. The vehicle matched. A silver sedan. Peters pulled up the police report. According to this report, the suspect's vehicle was described as gray or silver. Rental cars matching that description are common. What specific evidence made you suspect this particular vehicle? Silence. Deputy Holland, you claimed you couldn't see the disability placard because it was too dark. But the body camera footage shows it was 7 a.m., with clear morning light, and the placard is visible in your own camera footage. Were you lying then, or are you lying now? Objection. The defense attorney jumped up. Sustained. Rephrase. Peters smiled. Deputy Holland, can you explain the discrepancy between your report and the body camera evidence? Holland had no answer. The pattern continued. Peters systematically destroyed every justification Holland offered, using the deputy's own body camera footage as evidence. D'Souza's testimony was equally damaging. Peters asked him to explain why he'd allowed the 70-minute detention to continue. "Lieutenant, at what point did you determine there was probable cause to continue detaining these women?" D'Souza's answer was telling. "We were still investigating." "For 70 minutes? Yes. And what evidence did you uncover during those 70 minutes that justified the continued detention?" "None. We didn't find anything." "So you detained 3 American citizens for over an hour, handcuffed them, searched their vehicle without consent, and found no evidence of any crime?" "Correct." The defense rested after 3 days. In closing arguments, Peters addressed the jury with the body camera footage paused on screen, showing Orsale handcuffed in the patrol car. "This is what racial profiling looks like, not burning crosses or slurs. It's deputies seeing black people and assuming criminality. It's a mother asking, 'What crime did I commit?' and getting handcuffed instead of an answer. It's 70 minutes of detention without probable cause. It's a constitutional violation captured on body camera that the department investigated and found nothing wrong. The jury deliberated for 16 hours over 2 days. The jury filed back into the courtroom on March 1st, 2023. The foreperson, a retired school teacher, stood holding the verdict form. The courtroom was silent except for the shuffle of feet and the quiet breathing of spectators who'd waited days for this moment. The Lagervale family sat together, Orsale holding both daughters' hands. Peters sat beside them, his legal pad covered with notes, his expression carefully neutral. Across the aisle, the defense team looked confident. Qualified immunity had protected officers in countless cases before. They expected the same outcome here, despite the body camera evidence. The judge addressed the jury. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" "We have, Your Honor." The foreperson handed the form to the bailiff, who delivered it to the judge. She reviewed it silently, her expression unchanging, then handed it back. The bailiff returned it to the foreperson. "Please read the verdict. In the matter of Azalea Lagervale, Aotai Lagervale, and Azalea Harge Lagervale versus Alameda County, Deputy Stephen Holland, Deputy Monica Pope, and Lieutenant Anthony D'Souza, we the jury find as follows. On the claim of violation of Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure, we find in favor of the plaintiffs against all defendants." The courtroom erupted. The judge's gavel came down. "Order," the foreperson continued, reading through 13 separate findings. False arrest, violation of First Amendment rights for retaliation, violation of 14th Amendment equal protection, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress. On every count, the jury found in favor of the Lagervale family. When the liability phase concluded, the judge called for a brief recess before the damages phase. Orsale collapsed into Peters' arms, sobbing with relief and vindication. 4 years of fighting, of reliving the trauma, of facing a system designed to protect officers who violated rights, and the jury had seen through it all. The damages phase began that afternoon. Peters presented evidence of the family's suffering, medical records documenting the wrist abrasions, the anxiety diagnoses, the therapy sessions. Academic records showing Azalea Harge Lagervale's GPA drop from the failed exam. Employment records showing Azalea's lost work time. Expert testimony calculating economic damages, pain and suffering, and the constitutional violation's value. And then Peters explained California's Bain Act. This law allows juries to triple damages when constitutional rights are violated under threat of force. The deputies handcuffed these women, detained them, searched their vehicle, all constitutional violations committed. Under the implicit and explicit threat of force, the Bain Act applies. The defense argued the damages should be minimal, no physical injuries beyond minor abrasions, no permanent harm. An unfortunate incident, but not worth millions. Peters' rebuttal was devastating. No permanent harm? Ayade Lagervale still has panic attacks when she sees police. Azalea Harge Lagervale's perfect academic record was destroyed. Azalea Lagervale can't park at a Starbucks without reliving this trauma. And beyond this family, what message does this community send if we say constitutional violations are worth pennies? The jury deliberated on damages for 3 days. When they returned, the courtroom filled again. Media, activists, law enforcement, all waiting to see if the constitutional violations would carry real consequences. The foreperson stood. We, the jury, award the following damages. To Plaintiff Azalea Lagervale, compensatory damages against Deputy Stephen Holland in Alameda County in the amount of $2.75 million. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. The foreperson continued. To Plaintiff Owadi Lagervale, compensatory damages against Deputy Stephen Holland and Alameda County in the amount of $2 million. To Plaintiff Ozale Harge Lagervale, compensatory damages against Deputy Stephen Holland and Alameda County in the amount of $2 million. To Plaintiff Owadi Lagervale, additional compensatory damages against Deputy Monica Pope and Alameda County in the amount of $750,000. To Plaintiff Ozale Harge Lagervale, additional compensatory damages against Deputy Monica Pope and Alameda County in the amount of $750,000. Peters calculated quickly. $8.25 million total, the largest civil rights verdict in Alameda County history. The courtroom erupted again, this time with cheers and applause. The judge didn't stop it immediately, letting the moment breathe before calling for order. The Lagervale family wept together. 4 years of pain and frustration finally validated by 12 strangers who'd looked at the body camera, evidence, and decided constitutional rights meant something. Outside the courthouse, Peters addressed the media with the family standing beside him. Today, a jury sent a clear message. Law enforcement cannot violate constitutional rights because someone is black. These deputies saw 3 black women in a car and assumed criminality. They handcuffed them without probable cause. They detained them for 70 minutes. They searched their vehicle without consent, and all of it was captured on their own body cameras. This verdict says that costs $825 million. The consequences came swiftly. Alameda County announced immediate reforms, mandatory Fourth Amendment training emphasizing reasonable suspicion standards, body camera review protocols for all detentions exceeding 15 minutes, independent civilian oversight with investigation power over racial profiling complaints, quarterly public reporting of detention demographics, zero tolerance for unlawful searches. What the county didn't announce, but what activists discovered through public records requests, was that Deputies Holland and Pope were both promoted after the incident. Holland to detective, Pope to training officer. The department had investigated their actions, watched the body camera footage showing the constitutional violations, and rewarded them with promotions and raises. The promotions became national news. How could deputies who cost the county $8.25 million be promoted? The answer revealed the depth of institutional failure. Alameda County's culture valued aggressive enforcement over constitutional compliance. The internal affairs investigation had found the deputies acted within policy. The policy was the problem. Federal investigators from the Department of Justice opened a pattern and practice investigation into Alameda County Sheriff's Office. They reviewed 3 years of body camera footage from detention incidents. What they found was systematic. Deputies routinely demanded ID without reasonable suspicion. Detentions averaged 45 minutes even when no evidence of criminal activity existed. Searches occurred without warrants or probable cause, and people of color were detained at rates 3 times higher than white residents, even accounting for crime statistics. The DOJ's report was scathing. Alameda County Sheriff's Office engages in a pattern of constitutional violations targeting communities of color. Body camera evidence shows deputies routinely ignore Fourth Amendment protections. The culture values compliance over rights, and supervisors enable these violations by approving unconstitutional detentions. The county entered a consent decree requiring federal oversight for 5 years. Holland and Pope both resigned rather than face additional scrutiny. D'Souza retired. None faced criminal charges despite the jury's findings of constitutional violations. The Lagervale family used their settlement to heal and advocate. Asile established a legal defense fund for others subjected to wrongful detention. She testified before the California legislature about racial profiling, her testimony helping pass Assembly Bill 1185 requiring demographic data collection on all law enforcement stops. Asile Harge Lagervale transferred to UCLA despite the GPA setback, earning her degree in sociology and continuing to law school. She now works as a civil rights attorney, representing families like hers. Aoti graduated college with honors in psychology, focusing her studies on trauma recovery from police encounters. The body camera footage became required viewing in California police academies. A stark lesson in constitutional violations captured from the officer's own perspective. Training sessions emphasized what the footage showed. No reasonable suspicion, no probable cause. 70 minutes of illegal detention. Constitutional rights violated while the cameras recorded every moment. The case established, precedent used in dozens of subsequent lawsuits. When body camera footage contradicts officer testimony, juries believe the cameras. When deputies can't articulate reasonable suspicion, detentions are unconstitutional. When departments promote officers who violate rights, institutional liability increases. At Starbucks locations across California, managers received new training. Never call police on customers without specific articulable evidence of criminal activity. Never enable racial profiling by law enforcement. The company settled separately with the Lagervale family for an undisclosed amount, acknowledging their parking lot had been the site of a constitutional violation. 4 years after September 20th, 2019, Azalea drove past the Castro Valley Starbucks where it all happened. Her daughters were with her. She didn't stop, didn't look, didn't let the memories consume her. She'd fought the system and won. She'd proven that constitutional rights matter, even when violated by those sworn to protect them. And she'd done it with the very evidence the deputies never thought would be used against them. Their body cameras captured everything. The illegal stop, the 70-minute detention, the constitutional violations. The deputies thought those cameras would protect them from false accusations. Instead, the cameras became the irrefutable proof of their misconduct. Deputy Stephen Holland walked into a Starbucks parking lot expecting routine compliance. He saw 3 black women and assumed criminality. He handcuffed them without probable cause. He detained them without reasonable suspicion. He searched their vehicle without consent. His body camera recorded all of it. That decision cost Alameda County $8.25 million, cost him his career, and established precedent that continues protecting constitutional rights today. The lesson is clear. Body cameras document the truth. And when the truth shows deputies violating constitutional rights because of racial bias, there are consequences, real consequences. 8,250,000 consequences. If you believe constitutional rights must be protected regardless of race, that body cameras should hold officers accountable, and that justice sometimes costs millions before systems change, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because tomorrow we have another story of courage triumphing over institutional failure. The truth, recorded in high definition, plays both ways. Sometimes it protects officers, sometimes it proves their guilt. And when 12 jurors watch 70 minutes of constitutional violations on body camera footage, justice costs exactly $8.25 million.